there's just so much goodness at Bill. And the reason I'm excited about it in terms of the last 12 months is Bill is speeding up. Bill is bringing more things to market and bringing it faster. So that's what I've been seeing at the company. That's kind of where we're headed. It's going to be good.
Hi, and welcome back to another edition of the RightNOW Podcast. My name is Derek Distin, Vice President Community here at Rightworks. You know, we talk about the accounting profession being an ancient profession. It literally can be traced back over 7,000 years. Ancient Mesopotamia, the Levant, the Fertile Crescent, Iraq, whatever you want to call that post-Neolithic period, that's where accounting came into be. It is one of the oldest professions that has been around and evolved and changed throughout the last 7,000 years. The rate with which we see an evolution and change has not stopped. It has only increased and gotten faster and faster. We know that the key to sustainability is evolution. And at Rightworks, we are here to partner with you through that evolution. But we can't do it alone. Joining me today to help us talk about this continuous evolution is Bill.com's Director of Product Management, Richard Korn. Richard, so happy to have you with me today.
Thanks for the invitation. I'm excited to be here. A lot of really good topics we can cover on accounting. I mean, you're totally right. It's a tale as old as time.
Seriously, there's like 7,000 years that we can unpack. We don't need to talk about that. A lot of that is, and I use this term literally, ancient history. Let's talk about what we are seeing today, especially as it revolves around the industry as a whole. For you, from your perspective, what do you think has changed the most in the last 12 to 18 months for the industry and the profession?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me set a little stage on, we have the history of accounting. If we look at it now, by most measures, accounting is probably the fourth largest profession. About 3 million people practicing accounting, whether that's outsourced in a firm, the tax practitioners, the corporate accountants, right? A lot of people still making the books balance, making the statements public, so much work to do there. I think the last stat I saw was between 75 and 100 billion on that labor spend. So when we're talking about the size here, it is still a massive profession. So I'm teeing that up because the next kind of topic is talent, right? Mm-hmm. So if we talk about the last 12 to 18 months, the talent shortage is not new. But I think the way the industry is responding to it is looking at sort of the maturity of the profession. There's probably about 75% of accountants who are going to retire in the next 10 years. We've been talking about it. Maybe 5 years ago, it was who's outsourcing, where are you doing it, what BPOs are you using, things like that. I think what I'm seeing now, at least in the last 12 months, is the startup space is actually taking note of this. It's really exciting. If you look either at A16Z or just anyone in the Valley, there's a lot of discussion around, look, accounting, a lot of it is data entry aggregation. It's not, there is a very important advisory piece, but to get to the advisory piece, there's so much manual work. And we've talked about automation. We've talked about, reading invoices. Like that's boring. That's old news. But I'm talking about kind of, if you look, whether it's tax, research, bookkeeping, even embedded GLs, this is where I think I've seen a list of 50 or maybe 70 startups in the last 18 months just focused on these problem spaces across accounting. So all of that to say, in the last 12 months, there's more capital going into it. There's more entrepreneurs trying to serve accountants, innovating on behalf of accountants, which is a net gain for the profession. That is, I think, even when we talk about what's coming up at the conference, that's where I see a lot of interest. I do want to make one more point on the last 12 months. We can, maybe talk about the future in a minute, but it's unfortunate that while AI tools and innovation are, very good forces in the world, they also can be used for very bad purposes. And so AI has also enabled cybersecurity risks. There's always been cybersecurity problems in accounting. Accountants have a lot of sensitive financial information. I said we right there because I practiced accounting for 10 years. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. So I'm a CPA. I am deeply involved in understanding what happens at a firm, what happens in a corporate accounting department. So we have sensitive information. And now bad actors, I saw a report from CrowdStrike recently, 400% increase in the voice phishing attempts in the last 12 months. Well, with Gen AI, no wonder there's that increase. Now a bad actor can make 100,000 fake voice calls, and they can literally do what tech does, and they can iterate and find the most malicious one. And so, I mean, whether it's business email compromise, voice phishing, text, like it's just so much better now. We used to like make jokes like, oh, we'll just read it and you can tell if it has uncommon prose, it's obviously wrong. That's so gone. It's the fraud is good, which is annoying. So last 12 months, I'd say those are the two that are probably I hear the most.
I've got this, as with many Zennials, ex-Zennials, I've heard it pronounced both ways, sort of on that millennial cusp, but I've got this thing where I sort of don't like to answer my phone if I don't recognize the phone number. And it feels like every other day when I'm going through the voicemails as somebody leaves, it's literally the same message, like verbatim, with a different voice. And it sounds human.
It's scary good.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, off topic, but we just saw OpenAI release the next gen of their image generator. It's so much better. So all of those are going to be used for good, but also for bad.
As with everything humans, we are so good at creating things for beautiful purposes and nefarious purposes.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned the startup space, everything that's coming in, and you sort of took the profession and very generally placed it in two categories. You said there's the nuts and bolts of what needs to get done, the balancing of the books, the GL stuff, the data entry. And then you said the advisory piece. When you see the startups, what you're paying attention to coming out of the Valley, are they tending to focus more on one over the other?
Yeah, that's such a good question. They're the ones that excite me and that I've spent time looking at are the ones that get rid of the nuts and bolts, so to speak, data ingestion, aggregation, data massaging. The time people spend moving data between systems, even if it's an integration where the data moves automatically, checking that both systems got every piece of data, that is the ripe place. And I think once they get that right, this companies who are successful in the space, then they'll move to advisory. But you have to do, in my view, the data part first, because you can't advise without good data. So that's the ones that I'm watching more closely.
Yeah, at some point they'll be coming for all the jobs.
Everyone mentions that. It's like there's a million examples, whether it's the ATM and banking, or even the calculator is replacing accountants from handwritten letters. Like it, people are smart, people are resilient. I don't think anyone's losing their job. I think they're just changing their skills.
I mean, what we're doing right now, talking over a internet connection, recording a podcast, it's great. This is phenomenal. Love this idea. I would so much rather you and I were able to sit down in a room and we could just face to face.
Let's get the vibe.
That's right. So we talked about the industry as a whole, sort of what you're seeing a little bit. What about for Bill specifically? What has changed in the last 12 months for you guys?
Wow. Yeah. Bill is on a big reacceleration journey. For those that don't know, Bill.com, it was founded, almost 20 years ago. It was 2006, so we're pretty close to our 20-year anniversary. And at the time, the founder, Rene Lacerte, was also an accountant. He kind of pioneered building software purpose-built for accountants. So we have a long history of kind of innovating in that space. What we've done in the last 12 months, I think we've really turbocharged some leaders at the company. We have two new board members, Dan Mornikoff and Carrie Goman. They're, industry experts. They're from very large tech companies. If you've heard those names, they're on the board of Bill. They're going to be bringing energy. We've reinvigorated our payments business. We brought on a new executive, Mary Kay Bowman, who was from Visa. The payments business, it really powers Bill, whether it's the corporate card or the accounts payable, accounts receivable. we move over $1 billion a day, right? And we move that across. It's crazy, right?
It's a
We move
lot
that
of money.
across. There's over about 120 permutations of how that money can be moved. You think about if you're doing bill pay, I'm pulling the funds from the payer, and is that from a card, from a bank account, international currency? There's the speed of the payments. Then I'm sending it to a receiver, and do they want to receive it in any of those permutations? And then there's the speed permutation. And Bill has done a really good job of letting people mix and match, whether it's you fund on card and pay on ACH or vice versa. So our flexibility is immense. And now what I'm excited for Mary Kay to do is really level up that payments network and distribute it in even bigger way. So that's a huge change. The new board member is Mary Kay. And then another industry veteran, Arijma Shirgi, she came in to lead the AP business. She was, named one of the top 100 most influential women or just influential people in accounting today in 2019. She was at QuickBooks for about 15 years. There's just so much goodness at Bill. And the reason I'm excited about it in terms of the last 12 months is Bill is speeding up. Bill is bringing more things to market and bringing it faster. So that's what I've been seeing at the company. That's kind of where we're headed. It's going to be good.
What does that mean for you specifically, director?
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of a background just to make sure listeners understand. So in product management, kind of that profession is focused on understanding the needs of customers, helping to create the solutions, and then also working very closely with software engineers to make sure we build it correctly, right? So in that kind of role, we want to define really high quality experiences for accountants. I focus on a few product areas. It's things like our accounting firms, how they experience our product. Bill has over 8,000 accounting firms. Really great partners in our accounting firms. We get so much value from them, and I hope they feel we've delivered that much value times 10 in return. But what it means for me is I really have a lot more license to go innovate for accounting firms. There's more investment from the company. There's more resourcing, and that's why we're speeding up. We're calling our shot, so to speak, to say, let's build for these audiences. Let's build these features, and I can talk about the whole portfolio of features. But at a high level, it means I get more firepower.
And for you, that's got to be the good thing. You're not you have a remit, but you also have the resources behind you. That's
the thing, right? It's like we can all dream about, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this and this? And then it's like when it comes down to brass tacks, so to speak, who's doing the work? Well, Bill is very well positioned. We have, as I mentioned, a very long, deep knowledge in the area. So that's where we're going to actually be able to deliver quite a bit of new innovation in the next 12 months.
Let's talk about right now, the conference in May in Nashville. What are you most excited about talking to attendees or demoing there at the show?
What I am really excited about, and this is going back to the what's next for accounting, what's next 12 to 18 months. We all got excited about large language models, text generative AI. We haven't seen a ton of change I talk to practitioners a lot. How is that impacting them? You could speed up the way you write an email. That's nice. I mean, I do use it for those workflows. And there's a little bit of, LLM powered OCR, but the next wave that everyone's talking about is, the rather cumbersome term agentic workflows, but AI agents. I want to talk to firms and hear, if I look at, I think it was PwC said they're investing $1 billion in AI-powered workflows, partnering with Microsoft. Reuters said they have an $8 billion fund to accelerate AI for audit and tax. So though I assume that money is going toward agents, because LLMs are great. They do provide leverage, but I think the agents are the next step. So that we talked about a little bit about the workflow of an accountant, whether it's the data aggregation piece, kind of the reporting and compliance piece, or the advisory piece. I think agents will be primed to disrupt that first piece. So if I can talk to people at the conference, and Bill will talk about this as well, what they're seeing, if they have any early green shoots on, are they trying some of these startup products with like a subset of clients? that kind of connection, that's what I look for at a conference. And that's where I'm going to be asking questions.
So flipping that around, what sort of questions are you expecting to hear from attendees?
This is, I think, where AI gets annoying, to be honest. People are going to say, but how are you actually using it? Like, give me a literal example of where it's impacting your workflow. Because that's where, I mean, any of these big companies, whether it's the GL, the fintech product, they talk about it, but practitioners are still saying, where are you seeing the leverage? Where are you seeing the workflow change? So I expect them to ask those questions, and that's where I want to try to understand who's actually experimenting in practice, who's using new cutting edge stuff. And then Bill will have other commentary as well on kind of what we're planning.
Okay, so if I'm a principal, if I'm a partner at a firm, if I'm a decision maker at a firm, and I'm coming to you to talk about these kind of things, and you're sort of doing your job and selling me on the idea of, Bill, especially with some of this new AI technology, in there, what should I be looking for measuring improvements, or what sort of milestones should I be looking for within my firm as I'm trying to adopt some of these?
That is a great question that we could unpack quite a bit. There's definitely a wide spectrum of where firms live on their tech journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I start at the most basic, if I'm a decision maker at a firm, I want really good feedback loops with my staff on what is driving them crazy, where are they wasting time. And that could be something as old school as time cards, if that's still being used. I know that billable hours, even though we look at new tech-enabled workflows and we want to shift away from billable hours, I know that's still out there. So it can start with that. And then really where I think it goes is the same thing I would say you do in tech, where you talk to customers and you want to hear their pain points and sit with them and watch them work. I mean, you don't want a boss to micromanage you and literally watch you work, but if you can create that feedback culture where you talk about the biggest pain points in your advisory service, in your audit practice, and actually get those back in a constructive way. And the leader's mindset has to be that we're trying to revolutionize the firm with tech.
Uh-huh.
We're not going to push back on this is going to reduce our billable hours. Like that, it is going to reduce your billable hours. So you need to change the pricing. If you're going to be tech enabled, if you're going to replace these 75% of accountants who are retiring in 10 years, your hours are going down. There's no two ways about it. So how are we reshaping the firm around that? Once we get past that, then you're moving up the maturity model into the firm has decided to be tech enabled. The firm has feedback loops. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty of some tools actually have reporting on. I'm not saying like tracking your employees' mass clicks, like workflow reporting. How many payrolls is an employee running? How many AP bills is an employee coding or paying? And you can look at workloads and you can kind of understand realization on a client level. When you have these test pools of new tech, are you seeing a change in realization? Are you seeing employees saying they have more capacity? That's facts on the ground. So that's what I would encourage practitioners to do is basically do side-by-sides with your accountants, your staff, and understand that workflow. And that's going to really empower. And then be open to experimentation. Be open to trying something new with one client and then look at those results. That's where you're going to be able to leverage.
I think that's important too, what you mentioned at the beginning of having that conversation first to discover the pain points, because as you mentioned there about the reduction in hours and then being able to track workloads, you might discover that somebody doesn't think they have a pain point because they are used to working 60, 80, 90 hours.
Right.
And if they're not communicating that because they just feel that's the norm, and then they find out their peers are able to do the same amount of work in, 40 hours? Boy, wouldn't it be great if everybody was working only 40 hours during the busy season?
Game changing.
Yeah. That's the conversations that should be occurring. And so I love your answer to it. So I'm just going to speak it back. There's not necessarily a KPI that everybody can track today that you would say, this is the one.
Right.
It's going to be different firm by firm.
Yeah, and it's different on your appetite for innovation and disruption.
If you are hoping to sustain and thrive in the next 10 years, the hope would be you're further along the tech curve than you might be.
Right.
But if you're not, time to jump on that if you want to make it into the 2030s.
Right. And that's even a piece of firm culture. I'll just go on one more comment there.
Please.
You mentioned 60, 80 hours. I remember being a staff accountant. I remember thinking, I can't put these hours on my time card. I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm doing, right? When you're 21, you just got your accounting degree. Part of the firm culture, if you are saying we're disrupting ourselves, you're making that intentional decision to say we're doing that. You have to let staff know it's okay to say they're wasting time. And we're going to help you. It's not going to be a negative on you, right? And that sounds kind of crazy. I get it. If you're a big firm, like I'm always going to underreport my hours to show that I'm doing work really well. So if a young practitioner is listening, that's not going to help your firm evolve. So I hope that's changing in firms. It's been 15 years since I was doing that, but that's another piece where if you want that true innovation, let's be honest with the staff on what we need to see, how we need to understand how they're working.
Be honest with the staff, and staff, be honest with your leaders, because they want to help you. I would hope they want to help you. Crystal ball. What do you see in the next 2 years coming down the pipeline?
One of these startups is going to get it right. There's 50, 70 of them. Maybe 2 will get it right. And they are going to go like a wildfire across you could go by industry. So one will get it right for tax, one for audit, and one for advisory. I think about advisory more than audit and tax. And if they can eliminate one of those first 2 steps around data aggregation, ingestion, maybe even report generation, they can take that workload down by 70%. Forget about it. Like that's the end. So I really expect someone to change that dramatically. And it could be existing player. If an existing player, a well-known company, makes the right moves, that they could take that expansion, increase that kind of serviceable market. But startups are known for disrupting. So I imagine that in 2 years, we'll be discussing that firm that tech solution that changed the game for staffing.
Well, and I expect that we'll be talking in 2 years about how Bill integrates with that new winner on that one.
Yeah, or maybe Bill is that one. We can be optimistic. There are, over the course of the summer, you're going to see a lot from Bill on where we're headed for the next couple of years, and I'm excited about it. So hopefully we can help be a part of that solution.
Awesome. Well, speaking of excited, are you excited to come join us in Nashville?
I've never been to Nashville, and I was looking it up, kind of trying to understand what's happening. I'm a West Coast guy. Maybe I don't think about that part of the country. I did not know there was like a full scale replica of the Parthenon in Nashville. That's wild. So I got to see that. I see there's a lot of live music events. These are all the non-work things, right? That's always fun. And then hot chicken. I don't think I've had real hot chicken. Like I know there's like brands on the West Coast, but I got to try some signature food. So kind of your typical slew of things, some sights, some music, some food. But I want to see what the city has to offer.
All right. Well, here's my promise to you. As a northerner, I'm originally from Wisconsin, so I'm a Cheddarhead by birth. Moved down to the South 8 years ago to Atlanta. And the concept of barbecue and hot chicken was completely foreign to me.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I have adopted it. It is now another food group. I will make sure you get to try some good hot chicken.
I appreciate that.
What sort of fun swag can we expect from Bill at your booth? And my caveat or my comments to this is my big thing when I go to conferences, I love collecting socks. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I should have worn them today so I could pull up my leg and show you.
The angle.
I have a set of socks from Bill.com from SaaStr. I was out in San Francisco last year. So are we bringing back socks?
Our event marketing team, I give them a lot of credit. They find very unique things. I know we have socks. I see socks everywhere. So you can add to your collection. I don't think they have the year on them. Maybe we could add that so you could like say, which year you got them. I don't know. But yeah, we have tons of swag. We actually also, I think lots of, folks do this, but we'll have a couple of giveaways of larger items like some iPads and things like that. So swag is there. It'll be unique. Some will be socks. Some might be other things. So yep, the booth will be stocked.
All right. So I have a challenge for you to think about. Find something from your event marketing team that is unique, not going to be, brought en masse. Maybe it's from an old show you guys have. And I'm going to challenge any of the listeners right now. If you are still keeping time on a time card, a literal time card, if you can bring it,
man,
find either Richard or myself. If you find me, I will walk you over to the bill booth. And whatever that fun, maybe it's a unique pair of socks, we'll make sure that you get it. The first person who shows us their time card that they are actually still keeping time on, we'll make sure you get that, whatever that fun little tchotchke item is.
I will be blown away if someone has that. I mean, maybe they take a print out their one on digital. If there's if there's someone writing on it, I want to meet you. I want to talk about your firm.
you want to help bring them into the 21st century.
I want to understand how this is helping you. Maybe it's a game changer. Just educate me. But looking forward to that, meeting that person.
That is client feedback. That is customer feedback that a product manager needs to hear. Last couple of questions, and I like to ask these of all of my guests.
Sure.
I want you to imagine that there is a virtual time machine that we have right now. We're going to step into it, and we are going to set the date on this virtual DeLorean to go 10 years into the past. When we get there, the door is going to open, and you're going to come face to face with yourself 10 years ago. Now, forget, time travel paradoxes, anything like that.
We won't have a Back to the Future situation.
There's no hands disappearing. You might play Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good. I don't know. But you have 60 seconds to give your younger self one piece of advice. What is that piece of advice you are going to give your younger self?
Apart from the obvious ones that are boring, like, make some crazy investment. Like we all know what happened in the last 10 years in that. I might say, if I'm thinking 2015, there was not anywhere near as much focus on tech and accounting. So if we talk about this world, and I have my degree in accounting. I was a relatively fresh accountant at that time. I would say start your own firm and use these tech tools, because you're going to blow people away. Like if you look at what happened in PE in the last 5 years, oh my gosh, like you could redefine the entire category of outsourced accounting if you had started at that point in time.
So now we get back into our time machine and we go forward from today's date 10 years into the future.
Yeah.
Same thing. Door's going to open up. You're going to be face to face with yourself 10 years from now. Again, you've got 60 seconds.
So short.
Ask yourself one question. What question are you asking yourself?
Maybe I'd ask about how AI has disrupted the workplace and see if I could decipher something from that. But hopefully 10-year future me is so well positioned in that space. If I said, what do I need to do now? They would have that answer. So something around AI in the workforce.
Any last thoughts for our audience?
I'm looking forward to chatting with everyone. It's always a good opportunity. Come say hi. I think regardless of which of these sort of futurist predictions come true, the accounting space is never going away. It has been 7,000 years strong, like we talked about. It's just getting stronger. The need for assurance is getting higher, especially with bad actors. So if there's one takeaway, accounting is very safe, and let's all figure out ways to make the profession more valuable with some of these innovations.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing that. Well, listeners, thanks for tuning in. Keep practicing, keep evolving, keep paying attention to your voicemails and your emails to make sure that they are not nefarious actors coming in. Again, putting a spin on an ancient Chinese proverb, the best time to have planted a tree was years ago. The second best time is today. The best time to have made a change, years ago. Second best time is right now. Please remember to join us in Nashville, May 19th through the 21st for RightNOW 2025. And as a bonus to anybody listening right now, if you have not registered, you can register at rightworks.com/RightNow 2025. And if you use the code POD300, again, that's POD300, you'll receive $300 off your registration. Richard, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Derek. Great talking to you.